We're in the cat chair this video, so that's how you know it's a serious video. Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is the long-awaited book review video that you have all been waiting for. Just kidding, I don't think any of you have been really waiting for this, but I've been waiting for this. I have set a goal for myself to start reading a whole bunch of books. And I've been doing really good with that goal this year. It's not as many books as I would like it to be, but I would say it's a pretty good start. So these are all the books that I've read, I would say pretty recently. Maybe in the past like 6 months or 7 months, like this is everything that I've read. Let's go with that. That sounds accurate. So yeah, let's just get into it. They're mostly memoirs, but there's one fantasy book that I threw in there to give myself a little break. So this book I did already show you guys if you've been watching, and it's this book, Britney Spears, The Woman in Me, ASMR. This book took me about 2 days to read and finish, which was pretty surprising. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I really enjoyed this book, 1 being I would rate this a 3. The reason I rated a 3, truthfully, I don't think it was very well written. It is a little all over the place. Like, there's stuff that she's leaving out because there are things where I'm like, okay, why is this happening? And I understand like what is happening, but I don't understand why this is happening. And a lot of, I feel like, information that could give more context to the scenarios that are happening are just left out. And I would say at about halfway through the book, I got so frustrated with just how it was written that I ended up Googling if Britney Spears even wrote it herself. And it turned out she didn't. She had a ghostwriter write it. So I felt like maybe that could explain why it is the way that it is. I went into this book a Britney fan, and I came out conflicted. I would say like what brought me into it was getting more insight on fame and just like how she went about getting to that point and how she created certain songs and like how she worked as an artist. And you do see a little insight of that, but not enough to answer all your questions. I went into this book knowing a lot about Britney Spears and her situation and some other things going in. The only thing that I came to understand more was the family dynamic that she had going on with her mom and her dad and her sister. But I would say besides that, if you already have done your research on like what is going on with her and what had happened, you're not really learning a whole lot of new information. She also talks about Justin Timberlake in this book, and I feel like that was a big thing that happened when she first came out with this book. Everybody was talking about the whole Justin Timberlake thing. Questions that I still have would be like, what's going on with her now, I guess? And like, where is she at with that situation now? Like, also, what's going on with her sister? Like, that's also another thing because she talks a lot about her sister, but we never actually get to the root of like, what's wrong with her sister? Like, what's going on there? I would recommend reading this book if you're a hardcore Britney Spears fan, or if you just want some knowledge on... That's really it. 3 out of 10, and we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next book. Moving on to the only fantasy book that I picked up, and if you're a Disney fan and you're a book reader, you'll see these everywhere. Barnes and Nobles, Books for Less, like you'll see these everywhere. This is Straight On Till Morning, A Twisted Tale. Basically a book about Wendy making a deal with Captain Hook. Rating it on a scale of 1 to 10, again, 10 being the most enjoyable, I would rate it a 6. Reasons why I would rate it a 6 is because you can tell it's catered more for younger audiences. For me, it had a hard time keeping my attention, but the plot and the way that it's written is fine. When I first went into this book, I was thinking it was going to be very similar to just like your standard regular Peter Pan book. And I was definitely thinking that we were going to see a lot more of Peter Pan. But once I kept reading it, I realized that it was not at all what I thought it was going to be. What surprised me about this book was how focused it was on female friendships. Wendy is struggling with growing up into adulthood. Wendy and Tinkerbell are the main characters in this book. You see a lot of them, you follow them throughout the entirety of the book basically. But for that reason is why I enjoyed it so much. I don't have a lot of bad things to say about this book. It just wasn't as mentally stimulating for me as it is with other books, but I still enjoyed this one despite it being written for teenagers. It was really more just to give myself a break and just an easy read after reading some heavier stuff, which we'll get into later. I would recommend this book if you're a Peter Pan fan or a Disney fan, or if you want to read about a lost girl. What did I say? 6 out of 10. Jumping back into the memoirs, we're gonna move on to some of my favorite ones. This next one being the one that started it all. This is the book that started it all. And it is Jeanette McCurdy's book, I'm Glad My Mom Died. I know you've probably heard about this book. Everybody has talked about it. Everybody has read it. I'm here to tell you about it if you haven't read it yet. This is Jeanette McCurdy's memoir about her and her mother and her rise to fame. Again, I went in wanting to know more about how she got into this whole Hollywood thing and how she got famous and stuff. And as you know, we all know her from the famous iCarly. This book talks about her life before, during, and after iCarly, and her relationship with her mother is the main focus of this book. She does get into Dan Schneider and Miranda Cosgrove a little bit, and Ariana Grande, which I feel like everybody talks about the whole her and Ariana Grande stuff. Yeah, we know that happened. What really surprised me was the Dan Schneider stuff. You learn a lot about what she goes through personally with her mental health and the way that she handles certain things. I don't want to say words to label what she goes through because it'll get me flagged, but she does have some mental health issues that she does talk about in the book, which I also found pretty relatable, and that also kept me intrigued and kept me reading. I wouldn't know exactly what to call her situation with her mom. Like, I wouldn't really know what to label it, but it is a very complicated relationship. 1 out of 10, again, 10 being the most enjoyable, I rate this a 10. Full on 10, no doubt about it. This book kept me hooked from the beginning to the end. I could not put it down. I think that if you're a woman or a girl who has a complex relationship with their mother, I would pick this book up and just kind of get an idea that, you know, you're not the only one out there and that there are other people out there that experience things too. And yeah, it was really well written. You could tell that she was very honest. She tried to be very genuine and very transparent with us. I do feel Jeanette McCurdy is one of the celebrities that we should be rooting for. Again, she seems very truthful, very honest. And another reason I'm saying this is because, again, she talks about Dan Schneider, money's involved, and it's hush money, and she does not take it and says that she is going to go ahead and put whatever she wants in the book.
And she does.
And she does. I think that's pretty badass. I would recommend this book to anyone and everyone. I think everyone should read this book. To be quite frank, people were not being dramatic when they said that. I think everyone should read it.
Yeah.
I have nothing bad to say about that book, really. 10 out of 10. This is the next book, and it is Selena with Love by Chris Perez, her husband. Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, 11. I really enjoyed this book. I did. I really enjoyed this book. And I'm not just saying that because it's Selena, okay? Even though I'm a huge Selena fan and I love her. As I was saying with Jeanette McCurdy, she's truthful, she's honest. Selena is another one of those celebrities that seem very truthful, very honest, and very genuine. And Chris really gives us some clear insight on how Selena works, how she functions, her motivations, and her fears and her anxieties. And he just gives us a really in-depth look into how she works. And I really appreciate his writing and the way that he writes about her. Like, ladies, we all know what it's like to read a book written by a man and he talks about the woman, and it's just all, we all experience that. But Chris talks about Selena and describes her with such grace and such elegance. It is refreshing. I would recommend this book to everyone as well. And I say that because I believe every woman should read about how much a man can truly love a woman. He captures that essence of love and respect so well in his writing. It blew me away. So going into this book, I didn't learn a whole lot of new information. I know a lot about Selena. I've done a lot of research about her and her family and Chris. So I went in not really learning anything new. I did end the book with a better idea on how her family works and the family dynamics there. And I will say that if you're a Hispanic female, you're going to understand how the family dynamic works, and you're going to understand what is happening with those family dynamics. Chris does talk a lot about her dad, her mom, her sister, her brother, and a lot of those arguments and altercations that had happened in those earlier years when they first started going out together, and the anxiety that brought onto Selena while she was trying to balance being a celebrity while also doing the things that her family wanted her to do, while also trying to find an identity of her own. And you really see that in the book, that battle that she has trying to balance all of that. He does give us some more information about Yolanda and their relationship and just how closely she was working with Selena. And I will say that there was a lot of red flags leading up into her death. They just didn't know. They just didn't know the red flags, I think. That was really the bottom line. I don't know, you're gonna have to form your own opinions if you do read this. I don't know, if you're a Selena fan or Hispanic female or just a female, I would recommend reading this. I think you could get a lot out of it. Whether it's spiritually or just internally, you're gonna get something out of this book.
Even men can learn a thing or two from this guy.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth? This is the last book. And this is And I Don't Want to Live This Life by Deborah Spungen. As you know, or don't know, if you've been watching me, you know that I've been reading this book. But yeah, this is by the Sid and Nancy, Nancy's mom. I have a lot to say about this book. Let's hope that a train doesn't interrupt me every 5 minutes, as it has been doing throughout the entirety of this video, which is BTW 44 minutes long at this point. Scale 1 out of 10, 10 being the most enjoyable, 100. I enjoyed this book 100%. And this was an emotional roller coaster for me as well. I'm going to be fully transparent when talking about this book because I'm maybe biased, but I related so much to Nancy Spungen. I went in not knowing really anything about Sid and Nancy. I went in knowing that they were an addict couple who did their thing, and then Sid allegedly hurt. I would say I knew more about Sid than Nancy going into this book because he was in the Sex Pistols, but after reading this book, I really felt deeply for her. It's her mother going through her childhood and leading up to the event that led to her death. Nancy was brought into this world with jaundice. Me too. From there, she just had a lot of mental health problems, and her mom and her dad were trying to get her help, and it was a struggle since day one. And she ends up having these siblings later on in life, and the parents just honestly don't know what to do with her, it seems like. So they ended up sending her away to boarding schools and stuff like that, where she eventually became part of these groups that were all about like punk and like rock and all that stuff. And she ended up really fitting in with that group and really leaning into music and the punk scene while also struggling with her mental health. And eventually she meets Sid Vicious. Sid Vicious doesn't come into this book till about halfway through, and you're anticipating him the whole way through. You're wondering, when is she gonna meet him? When is he gonna come up? And it does take a little while, but you see her going out with these other guys and seeing like why she ended up with Sid. And the mom does talk about the relationship from her point of view and how it looks to her, which is very interesting to read. Overall, Nancy seemed like a very troubled girl who struggled to get the help that she needed, and her parents were at the end of their rope and had been, it seemed, for a while. Once Sid enters, you see a shift within her and the way that she cares for him. However, she does open up about the abuse that's going on in that relationship, and it makes me feel conflicted because being part of the alt community, you know, you hear of Sid and Nancy and you meet other people who have also heard of Sid and Nancy, and they're idolized in this community where, you know, they're in love and they're idolized for this love. But having been in a domestic situation myself, I don't necessarily feel like maybe this should be a relationship that we should be idolizing. Towards the end, Nancy does vocally ask her mom for help during this, to where her mom is just kind of a wall and Nancy just doesn't receive the help that she needs. So yeah, this book will make you feel a lot of things. It'll make you feel conflicted. There are moments where I am going, aw, and then I catch myself and I'm like, hold on though, like literally she just said that he cut her ear off like 2 pages ago. You know, it's like, it's definitely one of those complex relationships, to say the least. I ended it conflicted. I feel horrible for Nancy. I feel so sad for her. I have a lot of sympathy for her and a lot of respect for her coming out of this book. And less respect for Sid, also. Halfway, like in the beginning half of this book, I was feeling pretty sympathetic towards her family and her parents in particular. But then towards the end, you started getting that like, things were being left out. Like she was saying that the sister was mad at her for something, but we don't know why. But we know it's in relation to Nancy. And it's just, there's just parts that don't make sense. Like there needs to be more context to what she's writing about towards the end. I don't know. Like, nonetheless, you do learn a lot about Nancy, and it is heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching. Like, you're gonna cry. I cried several times. The mother also gets into what she believes happened to Nancy and how she believes that went down. She does have her own opinion on what happened, and I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna leave that to you if you wanna pick it up and give it a read, The only question that, of course, was left was what really happened to Nancy. And unfortunately, I do not believe that question will ever be answered. I do have my own personal opinion on what I think happened, but I'm not going to share them with you guys. But yeah, I highly recommend this book to the alt community as a whole and just learning more about this relationship. And I do not think we should be idolizing this relationship. I'm sorry. I really don't think we should be doing it. Let's admire their fashion, let's admire their music, sure, but I do not think we should be idolizing this relationship. Just my personal opinion. You know, whatever. So that wraps up all of the books that we've read recently. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I did. Just trying to be fast. I am super glad that I finally came out with this video. You have no idea how long I've been wanting to do this video and how long I've been wanting to read these books. I'm so glad that I got around to actually finishing them to make this video for you guys. Or let me know if you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you liked it. Give it a like just to let me know, and that way I can keep doing them. I have some more books that I've already started and that I've already bought and have on my shelf that I'm like ready to do another video. So like, let me know what you think. Let me know if you want me to go into more details with these books. Let me know if you want me to do like one at a time. That way, like, you know, you get a better idea of what's going on. I try to go through these without spoiling everything. That way, if you do want to read it, you're still surprised by whatever is going on in it. But yeah. As usual, if you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.